a playlist original.
Lights, camera, action. This is Back to the Blockbuster, where we rewind, review, and react to everything happening in the world of film. I'm Gaze.
And I'm Jackson.
If it's worth watching, we're talking about it. Hot takes, deep dives, and everything in between. So grab your popcorn and let's get started.
Listen. Do you hear something?
Welcome to the Undertone podcast, where we talk about all things creepy. I'm your in-house skeptic, Evie Babbage, and my believer co-host says he has a real treat for us today.
We're listening to 10 mysterious audio recordings from an anonymous email.
Oh my God. Are you implying there's hidden messages in it?
Let me play it back in reverse.
Play the next one. Let's find out.
What is that? Where is that coming from?
Sing it good and loud. That's all.
We should stop listening.
What if we unleashed something?
I like it here in the dark.
You shouldn't have called out to her. It's what she wants.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts, Gaze and Jackson. Today, coming at you guys with another new release from earlier this month. We will be covering A24's Undertone, which is their latest horror offering. We've both had a chance to go see this in theaters. I thought it was fantastic and really interesting movie to watch because it, at the foundation of it, our main character is a podcaster, and much of the movie has to do with her podcasting. So it was actually pretty uncanny to see how similar their setup and their process was with her co-hosts and her live in different time zones, which is the case with you and I.
Yeah.
I was actually super cool to like see that being done on film and to that be the basis of much of the movie. But it was fantastic, and we haven't really chatted about it since we had both seen it. So this is kind of our first chance to see what the other has thought about it. But I have a feeling that I could understand where you lie with this one. I thought it was a really solid one location horror thriller, and man, was it ever creepy in all the right places. But yeah, interested for your thoughts, Gaius.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed it. I thought me and my brother came out of it like completely like, well, that fucked me up like a little bit. I mean, especially because it ends on such a aggressive, like the last 10-15 minutes or so are just so like relentless, like sensory overload in the best way. And so we came out of it just feeling like, oh, that was like a lot. But I really love like the slow burn and like build up to all that. I know that there's been some complaints from other people who have felt that it was really boring and that they didn't like the slow burn. This is all going to come down to preference, I think, because I don't mind movies like this. I actually thought that it did enough creepy things in the interim before we got to like the end that made it stand out and made it creepy throughout the whole thing. There's definitely some lulls and stuff like that, but like I thought they did a good job of setting up the atmosphere of where she was at, because you're only with Evie the whole time, at least in person. You do have her mother who is sick, but like the only one that is giving dialogue in person that we see on screen is her. And then, of
Right.
course, she has her podcast co-host, Justin, who I thought maybe would just be a random dude, but Adam DiMarco is in like a lot of stuff. The guy who does.
Okay, I didn't
play
recognize
Justin.
the name, so I got to look him up.
He was in The Musicians on Sci-Fi from 2016 to 2020. He was on the Netflix series The Order from 2019 to 2020. He was on season 2 of The White Lotus as one of the main characters, and he's on the Prime Video series Overcompensating, which a lot of people enjoy. So I thought he was going to be some random like Canadian dude they had, and he is Canadian, but I thought he was going to be some random like no name actor. But then I looked him up and I was like, oh, he actually has some credentials as well. And then Nina Kiri, who plays Evie, I had never heard of her before. My friend knew her from The Handmaid's Tale, but I don't watch that. So this was my first exposure to her, but like
really liked her in this movie. Yeah,
kudos to her for basically carrying the whole thing on her own. I mean, like the camera is mostly always on her, and everything is just focused in on her gradual, like I guess like deterioration from like experiencing what's going on with these tapes that they've been sent, and a whole lack of sleep, and this other personal thing that's going on with her that we learned about her character, that is also feeding into like the main plot. And I actually liked how they did feed that into the main plot. It wasn't just like, oh, let's just give her like a conflict that like she's dealing with. It was like, oh, it paid off in the end as far as like this really directly affecting her. So I thought that was really cool. And it can be, I think it can be hard. There aren't a lot of movies like this where I guess like the closest one I can think of is like Phone Booth, where you're dealing with like a person who's on screen and then someone whose voice you only hear over the phone. And so like Colin Farrell did that in Phone Booth, and Kiefer Sutherland, of course, was the voice of like the sniper who like had him in his sights or whatever. There can sometimes be a disconnect, I guess, when that's going on, but like as in the case with that movie and the case with this one, I didn't really feel a disconnect between her and Justin. I actually thought that like they did a good job of making you feel as if you were really listening to them engage, and also listening to how they engage on their show. And I agree with you. I really, beyond it being a scary movie, I really was just like, oh, this is actually, my brother pointed out to you. He was like, is this like kind of like what you're doing? I'm like, yep. I mean, he is like
very much so.
I was like, Jackson is like 4 hours ahead. We're in different time zones. Now the times that they choose to do their show is crazy.
3 a.m. Not 3 a.m.
Yeah,
and to listen to horror related stuff.
Yeah,
no chance.
And I guess they, of course, they're doing that because of the circumstances in which she's in, where she has to be taking care of her mother. They want to keep their show going. It's also a paranormal like podcast, so it has scary undertones anyway. So I guess they find it fitting to do it that late. But I was like, man, like that's dedication, because there's no way I would be doing like a show at 3:30 a.m. like my time, and like 6:30 someone else's time. So kudos to their commitment. I thought that was like an interesting thing. But and also when I was watching it too, I was like, oh, they do their thing this way, and like there was a lot of stop and go on their show. You could tell that they edited their own show because there was a lot of like there was a lot of like, okay, we're gonna like just stop here and then pick it up like tomorrow, or like next week. Or I was like, what? But I'm glad we don't have to do our show like that. We just do it straight through. Like, but someone else online was like, yo, how often when do they get episodes out? They're doing so much stop and go. Like, but it was an interesting thing about the process of doing it. I thought was really interesting on top of like the horror aspect. So I was like, engaged with it on that level of like, of just being like, oh, okay, I kind of understand this because like we do it. And then I think that kind of made it easy to put myself into like her head and her position, because even like all the technical things that they did, like when she would put on headphones and it would like drown out all the sound like around her. So like you're basically only hearing like what's going on in her headphones. Like you kind of feel like that sometimes when you're recording, because like it does feel like you're drowning everything out. And I know it did a good job of like putting you into her headspace, so that when she starts to experience all this like fear and paranoia and all that, you're kind of feeling it with her.
Exactly.
And I thought they did a good job of doing that. So like, yeah, I wasn't bored. I guess I can see how this isn't for everyone. There are a lot of comparisons to like the Blair Witch Project, how that movie was kind of like hyped up as like one of the scariest things ever, and some people don't think it is. Still technically well made. A lot of comparisons to Paranormal Activity, which the director and writer of this, Ian Tuason, is actually doing the new Paranormal Activity, and that
The eighth
after
one I
seeing,
hear, yeah,
after seeing this, it feels like a really good choice
it
of
does.
person to do it. So like I don't know, I'm all for like $500,000 to make. He did it in his like childhood home. That's where they filmed it.
Okay, yeah,
A24 acquired it for like I think low seven figures, but still a big hit for them. I mean, it's made
100%.
$15.2 million. So like people making money off of it. I would love more of these kind of like bare bones like indie movies like this.
It was refreshing
Because
yeah.
it doesn't look like it costs like little. Like it still looked like a well polished, well made movie, and then like probably has some of the best sound design on a movie I've seen in like a while, and like even movies with like bigger budgets. So that's a lot of credit where I can give it. I thought it was really well done, and I was completely immersed in it, and I think that was the point, to immerse the audience in it. And I was happy that the audience I saw it with seemed to like it, because usually after movies like this that there's a lot of hype around it. Usually when they're over it, you can kind of hear people go like that sucked and like blah blah, right? But like this one kind of seemed to everyone was either like talking about it in a good way or they were completely quiet after it was over, and I felt like that was
usually a good sign. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Just real quick, just want to give the synopsis for those that maybe haven't seen it yet. If you're still listening, definitely check out Undertone first. But the synopsis, as per IMDb, reads: the host of a popular paranormal podcast becomes haunted by terrifying recordings mysteriously sent her way, which is a very vague, quick description. Probably all you really need to know about this movie. It's not wrong, but there is a lot more behind the scenes going on with this movie. One thing that I didn't, well, as the poster suggests, the really cleverly constructed poster, you get the audio waves forming an upside down cross. So it kind of suggests that there's something a little bit more, something religious going on here. And sure enough, spoiler warning, I guess if you guys are listening, you know what you're in for. But it does take a religious twist. There's a demon that is sort of behind the scenes, the antagonist of this movie, even though you never see it. It is always present and is kind of a character in and of itself, with manipulating what's going on inside this house that Evie is recording in her mother's house. And we hear some things in the dialogue and the audio, or is it coming from behind her? That she does a really great job of sort of questioning herself as a skeptic, who is her character on her podcast show is the one that doesn't really believe the stuff that her and her co-host cover. Yet we can see, as she's watching more and more of these audio logs, her skepticism sort of fading away and her sort of doubting herself. And I thought there was really subtle acting that really delivered, to me at least, the belief that she's not entirely certain about if she's hearing is real or not. She says that she doesn't believe it and that there's a reasonable explanation for the phenomenon that they're experiencing, yet we see her actions sort of betray her thoughts. And I thought that was really, really well done by
I thought so.
By Nina Kiri. Yeah,
I thought so too. And I was, also another thing about the podcasting part, we don't also have to get into character. I thought that was really funny that they were like,
cool.
Whenever they would stop and they're like, all right, get back into character. But I guess they would have to on a show like theirs, because they're playing up her like not being a believer and a skeptic, and him being the one that is more open-minded and does believe in all this stuff. So, but it was really interesting to watch. They're like kind of like she would have moments, especially as she's listening to more of these tapes that this couple is sending in, where she's trying to shake it off, and then she's just like, all right, just get back into character. It was like, guys, we don't have to do that. We're just like,
no, that was a really cool angle that I guess I hadn't really considered before.
Yeah. I guess we could play up you being more of the like, I don't work in the industry, but everyone knows at this point, but you don't.
Right.
But for people who haven't seen it, like she is also at the house that she's having to record at. It's her mother's house, and she's a caregiver for her dying mother. So there's that. She comes from a Catholic upbringing, so that's also important. And it's also revealed that she is 6 weeks pregnant. So like, there's all these like these three things like that almost could be like just throwaway things just to give her character more backbone, are actually useful to what ends up like happening, by the end of the movie. So I thought that was really cool, because at first I was like, okay, they're maybe, even though this could be more, it could have just been just giving her more backstory, so you were able to relate to something with her more, rather than her just being like a random person who's co-hosting a podcast with her friend. But so I'm glad it did actually add up to more within the plot. That it wasn't just disposable, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And we see the impact that revelation of her pregnancy has. Again, like an angle that was like uncomfortable as the movie went on, but like in a good way, I guess. Like we see that she quickly starts pouring herself a drink the next time she sits down and record after finding out her pregnancy diagnosis. I was like, oh my God, this is like hard to watch. This is very uncomfortable, but it was interesting that kind of changed the whole perspective on what's going on. So we know that her and her podcast co-host is sent these anonymous audio files, presumably by a fan of their show that they cover horror related phenomenon. And as the audio files play following this anonymous couple, who are also expecting a child, we it's slowly revealed that there's more in common with Evie and the audio files that are being sent in a really, really subtle and creepy way, which I thought I was so like one thing that I really appreciated this movie did is it had me wanting to hear that next audio file every single time.
But I was also afraid to, like, it was weird. I was like, that's how immersed I was in it, because I was like, I want to hear more. But like, once you got to the midpoint, like maybe like 4 or 5, I was like, oh, it's just going to get worse. So I was like, it was almost like a train wreck where I was like, I don't want to hear this, but like, I need to hear it. And they did get gradually creepier as they went along. You know, hearing this couple like named Jessa and Mike, like, you know, she like he's recording her basically while they both sleep, because she's been talking in her sleep and all that stuff. And, you know, there's these things that have been happening while they've been asleep. And I also think they did a good job of like making that couple tangibly pretty real as well. You know, actually, like, you know, having the beginning of those audio tapes like be a little bit more like not so much creepy. It was just like them kind of like bantering in the beginning, and, you know, like, and then like them getting, you know, like you got the vibe of them being a couple, and then each one you just hear it gets more and more like unsettling the more you listen to it. And then also it was interesting how it tied into what was going on with Evie as each one played, because this movie also does a good job. And I'm glad, because I think everyone's felt this way about these little like fucking nursery rhymes that people sing to each like to their kids and all that to help them go to sleep, like London Bridge and Baba Black Sheep and all these, like, they are creepy. They're not like, I guess, like, you know, the tone and melody is, you know, it's melodic and it makes you want to like, drift off to sleep. But the movie, I've always like known that they were, but like I thought it was good that they actually had, it was almost like a history lesson too, as like, you know, they're going like Justin's help here go into like, you know, if you play this one backwards, if you do this, you do that, like this is what it actually means. So I thought that was a really interesting angle too, because we all know as grown-ups that those songs are creepy as fuck. Like they're not
exactly
like, there's nothing pleasant, even though like a lot of parents would like sing them to their kids to like rock them to sleep. I mean, if you rock them to sleep with nightmares, I guess that's what it does. But yeah, so I thought it was like all these little things that we were hearing like throughout the movie, it eventually ties directly back into her. And I thought that was, you know, a really clever thing that the script did, because this easily could have been like, you know, a ghost in the headphones kind of movie, and like
exactly. And I was hoping it wouldn't go that way, and I should have known better. But yeah, it turns out there was a much more clever antagonist, I guess, lurking throughout, and that was much more scarier than just like weird audio phenomenon. But as I almost called them Mike and Jessa, as Evie and Justin sort of do their own research in between their recording and after the audio files that they're listening to give them more context and they look stuff up, we start to realize that there is sort of a common thread between the audio files and Evie and some other phenomenon, in the sense that and the anonymous sender whose seemingly random name or email address actually reads different backwards, as is a common theme with what the audio files that they're listening to and the nursery rhymes that are referenced and heard throughout it. There's a lot of different themes that present themselves in this movie about like being looked at differently in reverse, which is really neat. We've realized that there is sort of a possession going on. There's a demon that's referenced, a demon from like ancient Mesopotamian and European folklore. Yeah, that concerns itself. Yeah, exactly. I don't even like saying it. Once that angle got introduced in the movie, and I realized,
oh, you're like, nope.
There's a fertility demon here, and this our main character is pregnant and basically alone at this creepy ass house with a comatose mother. Oh, that's really when the hairs in the back of my neck started to stand up.
Yeah, that started to make me freak out too, because like Jessa, the girl on the tape, she's talking in gibberish, and they realize when they play it backwards, it keeps saying like "come in, Abizu," and that's when they learned that Abizu actually was a demon in folklore who caused miscarriages and drove mothers to murder their own children out of jealousy because she was infertile, so she can have kids. So like that is what. Yeah, this is a demon that is like mad with anger because of her own jealousy of not being able to have kids, and that is playing into this whole thing with Evie, who is pregnant, who clearly has issues with like it. I mean, even though we don't really get a lot of backstory, we do get the impression from her talking to Justin that the person that she is pregnant by may not be the best person. And then she also has her own issues with her mother, who she is taking care of out of obligation, but you can tell
almost like
that
guilt.
It's guilt, but you can tell that it's weighing on her, that like it's affecting her life, and she doesn't necessarily want to be there. So there's all this guilt too. Like, so she has her own guilt with like, finding out she's 6 weeks pregnant, and then also being in this house caring for a mother who's dying, but you can tell like she doesn't really want to be there. I mean, there was a moment where she gets a call where she leaves the house, and they're basically the person on the phone is like, hey, like, she'll be fine, she's not going anywhere, you can go for like a little bit. And she does leave the house, and when she gets back, her mother is like on the floor out of bed, and which adds even more to her guilt that she didn't even want to necessarily leave, but she was convinced like, hey, if I go for a second, it won't matter. She basically is bedridden. She hasn't really said a word or moved. I can barely get her to eat. So what's going to happen if I leave for a few hours? And of course, when she gets back, her mom is on the floor, and it amplifies this guilt that she's already feeling. That is on top of this paranoia that she's feeling from listening to all this stuff. So it's all kind of becoming this like perfect storm, I guess, in her psyche, which makes it way more psychological than I had any idea it was going to be going in.
Yeah, very much was like a psychological paranormal thriller in a way.
Yeah. So like I thought that those angles were really interesting, and like her guilt for the stuff with her mother is pretty identifiable, because like I think some people who become caregivers for their parent or grandparent or whatever, even though they feel like they should because it's family, it does weigh on the person who is caregiving for them too, because it sucks like a lot of the life out of you as well, because like like she is at this, she has to stay there, she has like no, like she can't really leave because there's no one else that's going to do it for her. There is a mention of someone else that can do it. I believe it was a brother or another relative, and she kind of dismisses that to Justin as if like he's not going to commit to it though. So this is all falling on Evie, even though she may not want to do it. She is taking on this job of doing it, but it's clearly weighing heavily on her, and weighs heavily on her more once these recordings start coming into play, I guess.
And interestingly enough, the writer-director Ian Tuason, I'm probably butchering that, he conceived of this movie and I believe wrote it while he was caregiving for his, I don't know if they were terminally ill, but his sick parents a little while back. So like definitely some personal elements.
Both diagnosed with cancer. That's crazy.
I hadn't seen what they were suffering from, but really, I guess, interesting and sort of a healthy method of sort of dealing with those conflicting feelings about not wanting to be in this situation and wanting it to be over, while that also has a double entendre of meaning essentially there's only one way to not be in that situation, and that is for the suffering to end. But I think him finding a way to tie in some like medieval folklore and demonology as an angle into this movie was a really great balance, and something that just made an already uncomfortable, in its own way, horrifying situation, being alone and looking after a terminally ill loved one, just to add a paranormal stake to it makes the situation even more horrifying. And then to then dive into the situation and make the focus of it like behind the audio and the sound design of this movie as like the core way that we are getting these fears thrown at us is an extra cherry on top of what makes this movie stand out from, just your average conventional haunted house story. So
there's something said about turning
Ian.
your pain into art. I mean, like that, I'm sure that wasn't an easy situation to be in, especially both parents.
Exactly.
So
that's a double whammy.
Yeah, so like they've actually turned that into something that was probably therapeutic in the end to kind of like get all that out and exercise his own demons, I guess. While like and then to do it, in his childhood home. There's a lot there that
didn't know that part.
Had to be really interesting for him to do. What I don't know, and because usually when you're talking to someone like if there's characters on the phone and all that stuff, unless it's Scream, which like they all say that Roger Jackson, who does the voice of Scream, they are talking to him when they're on the phone. Usually it's like a first AD or someone on set that is feeding you dialogue. So I would be curious to know if like she ever even got to talk to Adam DiMarco, who plays Justin, or if it was just the director feeding her dialogue. Because if either way, if it is really him, if like they still built good chemistry back and forth. But if it's not him, they still build a rapport that feels legitimate if it was someone else feeding her those lines from him and it's not, Adam DiMarco who plays Justin. So I thought either way it works. But I would be interested to know like if they actually got to speak. I know they did like promo and stuff together, but like during filming, like if he was actually there, like how much of it, how much is just like ADR from him from somewhere else. But they did make it all feel seamless, and they built like a good rapport between them. As I bought them as co-hosts, I bought them as friends. I bought the relationship, and I think that is important too, especially the way things pan out in the end of the movie. I think you have to like really believe in their relationship too, and they do a really good job of that. And I'm glad they dropped like little subtle hints to indicate like how long they know each other. Like he knows, like he makes that comment about like, are you drinking again, when she's already like I think poured herself a drink. So he knows a lot about her. He knows about her troubled relationships. He knows about the situation with her mom. So this is someone that clearly has known her a while, and this is all done with just like little drops of dialogue without having to like give a ton of backstory. You get enough to really buy their relationship.
It seems authentic too, just like it's a friend checking in, and we're getting more context of the relationship within each question, each time they sit down and link up, which is just believable.
How did you feel about the moments, and there's a few where they're not recording, it's not the podcast, they're not listening to tapes, and it's just her in the house basically kind of walking around checking on her mother? Like, were those scenes still interesting to you? Because I still thought they were framed in a way that made me feel like something could pop out at any moment. The way he made the camera feel like it was like stalking her at certain points. How it would move around the house, and that you would see certain things like little shadows like out of frame, which always reminds me of Halloween, because John Carpenter did that really well in that movie. A lot of stuff that's like in the background that you notice like late. But I was wanting to ask you like how you felt about those moments where you weren't listening to like the quote unquote like spooky stuff.
So to answer, like those were the moments that I felt the most tension. Like there's a lot of great tension building while they're listening to the audio tapes, and while the camera is lingering on Evie, and we don't know what's behind her, and we know she can't hear. So we, as a viewer, we know she's vulnerable, and there's a great tension buildup, especially when she's engaged, and we're hearing noises from the videotapes, but we don't know if they're from there, if they're coming from in the house. So that is like where a lot of the tension is built. But when we're not sitting down with her and she's podcasting, I thought there was still some great tension that was being constructed while she's looking upstairs to a light that's on, and the only person that could have turned it on is her mother, who's been in bed basically comatose. And her willingness to go investigate and sort of her belief in that her mother is sort of getting better, because who else could turn on that tap or turn on that lamp? It must be her.
Yeah.
And every time she goes up, I'm like holding my breath more than I ever was when she's recording and listening to the audio tapes. It's every time she's approaching her mom's bedroom, I just felt the sense of dread. And especially there's some great, really quick edits, like blink and you miss the moments where she's in that room. And one great shot in particular is when she's sort of had enough of this. I'm guessing it's a Virgin Mary sort of ceramic statue. I don't know.
She keeps putting it away, but it keeps like popping up again in the house.
Yeah. There's a moment where she kind of tucks it on a shelf in the closet, and then as she's closing the door, we see in the reflection of the mirror her mom standing upright. My buddy Cam didn't see that, and I saw it, and it was so like blink and you miss it. But I was like, oh my God,
there was a shudder at our audience that people were like, oh. It got me. I saw it right away. I was like, nope.
Yeah, and just all the religious iconography in her mom's room, like it really reminded me of like my grandparents, and like how even as a kid, like sort of just being creeped out in like spaces that are like that have a lot of religious stuff in them, because it's supposed to be like, I think the idea is that it's like you feel safe and watched over and protected, but like I just find it so eerie, especially in the dark. So it did a really great job of like throwing me back to my childhood. And a lot of the camera work, just something I wanted to mention earlier. There's a lot of restraint in the directing in this movie, which I really admire. It makes you work for those moments of relief and the jump scares. There's not a lot, but so many lingering shots on dark door frames and corners of the room when nothing's happening, but you're kind of expecting it to happen. And it reminded me a lot of the direction of Skinamarink, which is another movie that
it's another movie. This is getting compared to which we actually liked. And I know there are a lot of people who were like didn't like it.
That's much more experimental.
Much more. This is like that. Yeah, they feel like there's much more of a narrative going on in this movie than there was in that movie. But I have noticed that the people who have dissed this have also not liked that movie.
I get you.
So it's one of the things where I get it. I understand it. I mean, it's some of these movies are not for everyone. I think a lot of it comes down to like, there's a guy I follow on X who basically said like, people have to learn to differentiate like the marketing from a movie and then the movie itself. So like a company like A24 or Neon, if they have a movie like this, they are going to try to market it as the scariest thing you've ever seen. It's up to you as a viewer to be like, to go into it like maybe they are overhyping it, like they go in with like a little bit of lowered expectations, and that might help. And, it's not on like the movie. It shouldn't affect the outcome of the movie itself. And I never really thought of it that way, because I used to get upset when like marketing would push this angle with horror movies, especially that you're about to see the scariest movie of all time, and then you see it.
I don't like that either.
But I did understand what he was saying, that there is a lot of that onus is on the viewer, who at a certain point when you hit a certain age, like you should know like these kind of marketing techniques, right? They're done by these studios to get butts in the seats. Yes. So I understand it. So like I think some of that does come down on the audience, like, and bloated expectations. So like I went into it not even thinking it would be the scariest thing ever made, but I did read some reviews that like really toned in on like just sound design, all that stuff. So like I was more focused on like, all right, is this going to be like, are they over exaggerating on how good this was? And I was happy to like hear that they weren't. Like it really was like a completely immersive experience. Like, I mean, you are in those headphones with her when she's listening to all this stuff. And which is me, I love when movies do this, where like, and me and my brother, and like I can see other people in the audience too, like when you were trying to listen to certain things that were like coming in low, like, and they were like, okay, I'm going to turn it up a little bit more. Like you were actually like leaning in and listening with her too. And that's a good, albeit manipulative technique to use, but like, because once they do give you that like zinger or something, you're either waiting for it and it eventually comes, or the tension is building so much because you're expecting to hear something and they might not even deliver it. Like either way, it's working. That they're like they want her as a character to listen in more, but they also want you as the audience to listen in more. So all caught up in that.
especially when you have Justin being like, "Did you hear that? Like, tell me you heard that
yeah.
random line in this reverse audio." And she's like, "No, I didn't hear anything. What are you talking
And
about?"
then you're like, too, and you're like, and I'm like, I didn't hear
being
either.
gaslit.
yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, and I guess like the audience at least on those initial like first few where he's like, "Did you hear that?" We didn't hear anything at all, right? Like, I mean, I doubt they barely made it audible enough for the audience to hear. So, but you do feel like you're right. It does feel like you're being gaslit. Like, well, maybe I did hear something, or did I miss it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fun little like psychological game that they're playing. And I thought it. I mean, I wish more horror movies were not necessarily like this, but utilize techniques that weren't of the norm. Like, this is not like a normal kind of like horror movie. I don't even think we really had anything like this, like at least sound wise. I mean, I know we've had like paranormal movies and all that, and movies that are supposed to be like real and like, because this isn't like a found footage movie, right? But it has like the DNA of one a little bit. It has like, like,
you're absolutely right. Yeah,
because you're supposed to feel like you're watching real people and experiencing it. But there's so many other ways to get the audience to be immersed in this kind of fear, and like I thought he did a good job of doing that. I know sound is important. I know sound design is important in movies, particularly in some horror films. But like this, like just utilizing it like to its fullest advantage was probably one of the first times I really felt how sound could be really used in an effective way in a horror film, like from like start to finish. Because like it was those moments of, okay, I'm hearing things that I'm creeped out by, but there's also the moments of like silence where I'm not hearing anything and I'm just waiting to hear something. And so it was like, it works twofold in that way. And then on top of that, while you're waiting to hear something, there be moments where she's sitting there listening to these audio tapes that are getting progressively creepier. And then the camera is just moving around while she's sitting there, and to corners of the house where like, okay, should I be seeing something in that corner? And then eventually she'll turn her head and look back, and like, because like she thinks she heard something, or like, so it was a really like a you are there kind of horror movie.
Yeah, and I think the camera work and like the directing, I guess, is overlooked in favor of like the sound mixing and the audio art in this movie. But the camera work was really, really great in this movie. Like you said, like it's a one location movie, pretty small set where we spend most of our time in the living room and the mom's room. There's not much in between, like a few tracking shots as she's going from one point to another throughout. And then a really great long one take throughout the house near the end. But it all comes down to like camera angles and how do we keep this set refreshing? How do we avoid doing the exact same shot or a couple of variations of the same shot over 90 minutes? So the fact that I never got bored of what I was looking at throughout that whole runtime is pretty impressive. But there's also like a really great shot. It looked like something right out of the Evil Dead where we see it's towards the end where we see, I don't know if it's supposed to be like the perspective of like the demon, but it's like we see the camera come from upstairs and shoot down the staircase and around the corner, and it ends on Evie. I'm like, oh, that's a really great use of covering the entire set in one fluid shot when there's not a lot of room to, be creative in such a small set. But it looked like an Evil Dead shot where you're following like the demon, those classic shots where they just put the camera on a zip line and send it through the woods. I
thought that was you're right. I think that the movie is getting, of course, because of its subject matter, is getting more credit for its sound mixing and sound design, but there's a lot to be said of what he does with the camera and in camera, because like you have to make it interesting just to watch someone sitting there, or just have the camera just be on her face listening to something. Like you have to it has to be more than just the audio. And the cool thing I guess about that is like you're so focused in on what you're hearing that you are eventually jolted by what you end up seeing, or even what you don't see. Because like once like the camera starts moving around her, like there's a couple of times, like I said, where she's just sitting there and it's just rotating around her, like, and like to a little bit part of the house. And I'm glad that they have her at one point like turn around, because like you're like, all right, I'm looking over here for a reason. Like you're moving the camera over there for a reason. And at one point there was just nothing there. It was just like, so like it does its job of like making you feel paranoid with her.
Yes,
that was like, and then of course there were some times where there would be stuff in the background and you were like, genuinely shocked by it. And like, the scene, like the moment with the mother sitting like up straight, like that's probably one of the most effective scares I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I did not like that.
because it wasn't like a look over here kind of thing. It was really so subtle, but like it was so great to feel the audience see it all at once and like have their like breath taken away all at once. So yeah. That was really well done. That's crazy that your friend didn't see it though. Like he missed it, and you had to like. Did you have to tell him later that like
I said, did you see that? Like he goes, no. I'm like, yeah, she was like upright in the reflection of the mirror, and he goes, oh fuck, I missed it. I was like, yeah, that was a great, and I'm sure there are things that I missed too, like little subtle, I don't know, things in the background of the darkness. That the beauty of this movie and like Skinamarink is that like it doesn't matter if there are or are not, you're sort of making it up in your own head when you're looking into these dark corners. It's like whether there is something in there peering back at you or position there for you to see or not, it has the same effect. So I'm curious what this rewatch will be like in like a couple of years when what else I'll pick up on. But I was curious if there was any standout horrific moments for you, whether they be audio or visual, anything that really got you or made your audience react. I had a smaller audience when I saw mine, so I'm not really sure, but
there was a lot of stuff throughout the movie that creeped everyone out. I mean, I think as the tapes went on, you could feel the audience kind of like feeling like the growing tension of like how much the tapes were getting into what was happening with Mike and Jessa. A lot of it, honestly. So my brother, he liked it, but you could tell like my brother is like not as into like slow burn movies as like I am. So I could even feel, even though he was like creeped out with some of it, I was like we're losing him. I could feel it, right? But then like the last 10 or 15 minutes happened and he was just like sitting up, like staring straight ahead, like what the fuck is going on? And honestly, the whole theater felt that way. I've read different reviews of how people feel about the climax of the movie, where some people feel that it's like overly chaotic and like too much, and then other people felt like it was like the basically cherry on top of like what was a already creepy movie. I mean, it had to escalate to something like that.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
And I was completely cool with it doing that. And to his credit and to everyone's credit involved, it's the writing, direction, and acting. There's a lot being thrown at you in those final moments. When they're listening to this like last tape, right? And he wants to turn it off, and he can't turn it off. They won't let him skip it. Like he's just like, he can't do anything. It's like at this point, like this demon or whatever, Abizu, is like they weren't supposed to listen to this last audio tape, right? Now it's like it's unleashed this thing. At least that's what we're led to believe, right? So when it does, it really is the definition of like all hell breaking loose. And I like, those last few moments stuck with me, like on my way home, even when I was like trying to like think about the movie when I was like before I went to bed, which was like wasn't the best time to think about it. But like those last few moments really stuck with me. Like they were just so effectively well done. And I know I talked to other people who think that the religious stuff is a little heavy handed. It might be, whatever, but it's a part of the movie. I think like, she kind of reveals that like, her mother has died and she kind of feels responsible because she refused to pray for her. So there's like all that, tied into it, like the religious part of it. But those themes are running throughout the whole movie. So it wasn't something that they just threw in at the last minute. Mm-hmm. I did think it was interesting that when she has like, there's a doctor that she's talking to and asking her like, when will she know basically when she's gone, like when she's dead. And he basically kind of describes kind of like death rattle, I guess. I guess like the one moment, I guess that other than what happens towards like the end, or like what with all the chaos at the end, was like the kind of like only black screen and just listening to her mother breathe and breathe and breathe, and then you hear that, and it just takes you back to what he told her. Like and it happens like in a completely black screen, and it just I thought that was pretty chilling in and of itself. So yeah, I was like, a lot of it happened in the last like 10-15 minutes of the movie, but I was shook by a lot of that.
One part, it was more of an audio part that really got me, and it's something that like you're just it's insinuated what's happening. I don't know if it was really like spelled out, but my impression, and it's something that's referenced in the dialogue as having happened previously, and I think we then hear this happen, is one of the callers. So after they finish the 10th audio tape, and two or three people call.
Oh yeah, they're live streaming, right?
Yes, which is pretty cool angle. Something that we're going to be experimenting with.
Yeah.
Is so somebody calls in and references the story about, I think it was a mother that had put their child in like some sort of bag or sack, and then like had smacked it against a furnace or something, I think is what they had said. And I'm like, that is just a horrific thing to even hear be described. And then I think another caller calls and is stating about how and this is like well after we've been informed about the demon that comes from the lives of children and pregnant mothers and whatnot, and the whole themes of, children being killed and sacrificed is well developed at this point. We hear a female caller, I guess, struggling with the thoughts of killing her child.
Oh, then, Abby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the demon itself, pretty much. And then we hear the sound of like maniacal laughing and something being hit against like a metallic surface. And I can only my only explanation is like, that is, we are hearing what was just described by that other caller happening in real time. And oh man, it was such a eerie, like skin crawling feeling to picture that happening. Oh yeah, that was
so there are things within this chaotic, and I mean this in the best way, because it was, but it was just like it's just become sensory overload at that point within these final moments of the movie, that the stuff with the final caller was so well done, because you could tell, like, Evie struggling with like her thoughts of like, one, maybe not wanting to be a mother because of because of like what's going on with her, but like she has a complicated story, right? So like there's all this, and she's pleading with her not to kill her child. So is Justin, pleading with her, and like I'm so caught up in the emotion of that. So I thought this was going to be like one of those like happy endings. I don't know why I thought that, where like they saved this kid, they saved this woman, prevented her from like killing her baby. And man, you're right, when that switch happened, when she started laughing maniacally, I was like, well, man, not only you fooled Evie, but you fooled me and the rest of the audience. I thought we were going for something a little bit more wholesome. And it was like, nope. It was like that. I thought that was like so well done, and like that, gave me chills actually.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting thing to do, because I'm not a woman, can't get pregnant. Like, so like I'm identifying with this on like a pure like empathetic level though, where it was just like
very much so.
So like I was like, what? They're gonna give her a little like her heroine moment, like she's struggling with like her own feelings about having a baby, and this is her like her come to Jesus moment to save someone else from like killing their baby. Since like you said earlier in the movie, after she knows she's 6 weeks pregnant, she takes a drink of like whiskey and stuff like so. Like she has like very little regard for her pregnancy early into it. So I thought they were gonna give her like her her moment to like kind of turn that around. But I was like, no, this is going pure evil, and it's not going to end happily. And I guess I should have thought that. I mean, it's an A24 horror movie. If it was like,
there is no upside, there is no happy ending.
Yeah, if it was done by a bigger studio, they probably would have had a happier ending.
Yeah,
but yeah, that maniacal laughter, that switch, like got me. Like they basically like, oh well, they fooled you. Certainly.
Yeah.
Also, I thought it was cool to have Justin like be on the phone with or on the audio with her, and not having her experience it alone. I mean, I guess
true.
I guess like that could have worked too, but like to show that like I think that drove home the idea like this is not just in her head. This is real, that kind of thing. Like I think it drove that home, because like if it wasn't real, then he wouldn't be hearing it either. Now she's experiencing it in a different way, but like it's still stuff that they are hearing together. Like the people calling in during their live stream, and then describing like that one person called in and said they were neighbors with Mike and Jessa, and like basically like they found Jessa dead with the back of her head, and she was pregnant at the time of her death. So like you've been sent like this audio file from a couple who is no longer with us. So there's all that implications in it too. But like having Justin there drove home the fact like, oh, this is actually happening though. It's not just like her paranoia kicking in. So I thought that I think it could have worked either way, but I thought it was more effective having him be on that final like
Yeah.
call with her.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it worked well.
So this movie's still in theaters, and you said that it's hauled in about 15 million so far.
Yeah.
I just was looking back, and we had predicted it. This is one that it landed right in the middle. I think it debuted to like a 9.3 million opening weekend.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah.
This will be one that I'm looking forward to having on physical, because I think that rewatch in dark with the volume cranked is gonna be.
And I have surround sound, so that's gonna be that's gonna be quite the sensory experience.
Exactly.
What do you have to say? Because this movie got a C cinema score from opening day audiences, which means
okay,
which means that like, you know, casual moviegoers probably weren't like totally into it.
Right.
For people that kind of naysay on it being slow and boring, you have anything to like kind of say against that? Because I was frustrated with like those critiques too, because there's sometimes where I feel like I'm seeing completely different movies from other people. Like
that's how I feel here.
People came out of that experience. Some of them were like, that was boring. Like, yeah, it's cool. Like the sound design was awesome, but like, and when that's not happening, there's something else going on. And I was bored. And then I'm like, I came out of this like, well, I could barely sleep. So like, I don't know. Like everyone's, I guess, experience is different, but I just couldn't get how people can really be like immersed in like what he was doing from like a technical standpoint. I thought it worked perfectly. It wasn't too long.
It is
94 minutes is perfect.
As short as a feature length movie can be, really, and still qualify as one. Definitely not made for like the streaming era of movies where like if you're watching this at home and every 5 minutes you're scrolling your phone, you're not going to get the full value of this movie. I think if you can't, you know, dedicate your time to an hour and a half movie and like watch a slow burn, and that's nothing to say if that's not your thing, that's fine. But to say like it was boring or that nothing happened or that you didn't like it because of those reasons, I'd say you kind of missed the mark, or maybe the movie wasn't for you. But there was lots to happen. The context is delivered at a slow crawl, and that adds to the experience of the movie. It's not would be as effective if there was jump scares every 2 or 3 minutes and fake misdirects and you know, stuff like that. Like I think with this movie, you kind of know what you sign up for if you know enough about it going in, and that it's a slow paced, slow burn, one setting movie or one location movie with very small cast. You know, that's okay. And I think the distinction is like should be between I didn't like it and it was bad, and that's something that I think gets overlooked a lot, because cinema score, as I think it's a really cool metric, it's not shouldn't be like a something that metric that people use about the quality of the movie. Yeah, exactly.
I'm always wondering like where they pull people for cinema score, because I've never gone to a theater and it's opening night and they're like, hey, what you think of that? They're never there. I guess it might be like in my area, it might be more of like a like downtown LA, Hollywood kind of thing where they do that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm just wondering where they do that. Like, you know,
me too.
Where you're at.
They would never do it probably where I'm at. There's not enough people, but I would love to be polled one day by them if I'm coming out of a theater. Probably would be if I was like out west, but
yeah,
it'd be super neat.
Keep in mind that like another A24 movie like Hereditary got a D+ cinema score. And that you know, even despite that cinema score, it still did really well. For a while it was A24's highest grossing horror movie until Talk to Me came out. So I mean I guess cinema scores when it comes to horror movies shows that this one might not be made for casual moviegoers. Like I have a friend that always like if he sees a horror film with like glowing reviews, he's like, I'm not gonna like it. Like he's always saying it's like if critics liked it, because he felt that way about The Witch. Like good reviews, he didn't like it. You know, a lot of like these kind of like what do they call it in like 2022 screens, like elevated horror that like makes smart people feel good about going to see horror movies, because you know they're not like jump scare horror movies, they're not like slasher films, they're more for like an intellectual experience. So some people do turn their back on those because they're just like, hey, like at what point was it scary? And it's just like, you know, it's scary in a way that it's not as obvious to you if you only used to watching like Friday the 13th or Child's Play. And I'm not taking anything away from those movies. I love those movies. But if there's
something out there for everybody. Yeah.
If you're used to that kind of scare, then that is, you know, you're not gonna like something like this. And honestly, like I said, I've never minded the slow burn as long as you pay it off, and I think that this one actually paid it off. Like I was really excited by how everything wraps up. My brother was like kind of confused in what exactly happened at the end, and we were like discussing like
I felt that way too, actually.
I was a little like, I was like, so did it attack her? Are they like her mother attack her? Or did they go into her mother and attack her?
Yeah, I was like, is the mom actually dead? Did we see that happen? I wasn't really clear on that.
I was like, only I was clear is that Evie got attacked because she definitely is screaming. But I was like, did the demon manifest itself like through her mother, or they like how did it transpire like that? Well, all I see is that she sees her mother standing in the bathroom and she's attacked by something. So I'm guessing it is a demon that attacks her, but I'm wondering if it's like the demon itself that does it, or did it kind of like awaken inside her mother and then attack her that way? And and then of course it's killing her because it's jealous because she has she's pregnant and it's gonna make her like kill her baby, miscarry her baby. So it was so chaotic in the end that I was like, all right, well, whoa, what killed Evie? Because something definitely did, but or maybe it's cool that it's like open to interpretation. Was it?
I like that too. Like
the demon itself, or did it possess her mother, or had it been possessing her mother a little bit throughout the whole movie as they listen to the tapes more?
Yeah, that was my impression. And like the further along with the audio tapes they got, the more influence the demon had. Like we just see more and more activity going on throughout the house. And then after they're completed, it's like, okay, now it's time to get attacked, I guess. But the whole journey was great.
Good. Oh, you know what image stuck with me is when everything's going like batshit crazy, and then like the color of the basically everything turns red, and she's like by that TV screen, and that like
I did not like that.
That like and it was like this, I guess like what was it, like a demon thing that they had looked up earlier in the movie, and like it starts to like gradually like smile out on the TV screen, and I was like
distort,
that's another image that stuck with me.
They did a good job. The TV and it's still showing.
They did a good job of making chaos, because sometimes those kind of scenes can be like, whoa, what's going on? And I think it really did a good job of just escalating like what she had been hearing this whole time, and like it coming to like this kind of like fever pitch finally of like, for both these characters who have been. I also love the reversal of characters too, because like, she's the one that's a skeptic and is like, oh, whatever. And Justin, who is like down for this stuff, usually apparently like, let's just listen. He's like, maybe we shouldn't listen to this anymore. Maybe we should stop. And she's like, no. She's like, we gotta finish this. And like, there was like, that worked two ways for me, where like, okay, she's so like, psychologically immersed in this that she has to finish it. But also, I'm just thinking from like the position of like the podcast. She was like, "No, we got to get this episode out." Like, no, like people want to hear it. So there also works on that level too, because that was one of the excuses she gave. Like, people are going to want to hear this. Like, we have to get it out.
Well, imagine the neighbor to Mike and Jessa hearing the first episode of their show, being like, "Holy fuck, these were my neighbors that were found dead, and now these guys were sent the audio." That's weird.
Yeah, and like also, it made me happy that we don't do a paranormal show at all. I couldn't do anything. Couldn't do that. I can't even I love true crime, but I don't think I can even do a true crime podcast either, because like it's different when I'm watching true crime stuff on TV. But if I was sitting like in the dark on my headphones, like discussing like facts of like a really bizarre case, I would freak myself out. So thank God we chose movies.
The very happy medium, whether or not they're scary or not. It's never too much, but to be immersed in that. Not only scary, but like negative material all the time. I've heard it takes an actual toll on people. And your mental health and everything. I'm like, I'm glad we're going from like really depressing, scary, freaky stuff, and then the next episode we're covering like a really great, uplifting, like family drama or family, Ninja Turtles or something like that. I'm like, hey, there's a great balance, and that's what I really appreciate about what we cover.
Did it make you want to do our show any differently? Produce it any differently?
No, I mean, big shout out to playlists for what they do behind the scenes for us. That made it even more apparent while, like you mentioned earlier, watching them sort of like break character, knowing that they're
Yeah.
going to be doing their own editing in between. I'm like,
And that
it's
whole like stop and go thing, I was like, oh no, that would not work.
I think there's a value to that creative control, but overall, it's thwarted by the freedom that it grants us that we have our studio doing it on our behalf. And I also thought, and it's not something that I think would work for our show, but I thought the angle of them getting into character and sort of playing up their skepticism and belief between themselves was a neat angle to see. But no, I guess I was, though, just surprised at the similarity between, it really is that simple it's as simple as opening up your laptop, putting on your headphones, joining a FaceTime or a Zoom or a StreamYard connection, and then chatting. Like, it's literally it's that simple.
Yeah, it really is. Like, you don't even have to be, like you said, in the same time zone. Like, you just like, you can make shows like that work. So it worked for me on that level too. Like, I was like, oh, like this actually is so realistic the way they're doing it,
and relatable.
Except for the time I didn't, that was the only thing I was like, who in the hell would be like, yeah, I'm down to record at 3:30 in the morning.
I'm wondering what she did for work, if she did work, because she's full-time taking care of her sick mother and she's recording.
Because they don't mention that
schedule. No,
they don't mention that, right? And I mean, unless the show's pulling money, it might be like the paranormal shows like are super popular.
Okay,
like are really, really popular. And so are true crime shows, but like, I don't know. It's just like, that's too much like death. And like, I don't know. It would constantly be like, it would be such a downer to do that week after week. And like, and when it comes to like stuff like this, I don't know if I fall more on like her side or Justin's side. Like, I'm not a total skeptic because I do believe there is like, you know, the afterlife and all that stuff. But like, I don't know how much of it, like, I don't know how I think I would be if I heard something that, like, if someone's just like, hey, like, this means this, if you're listening to it, I think I would be a little bit more of a naysayer. But I think I could be convinced maybe if I had more evidence of it. Like, that was another thing I was thinking about too. Like, would I be more like him or be more like her? Kind of like, oh, I don't buy any of this stuff. Or would I be like, no, like, you know, or would I believe it? And like, I don't know how you feel about that kind of stuff, or if it's like maybe something you can think about. But
I definitely defer to like logic as much as possible, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I can't be convinced, and I definitely get bad feelings about things, and I'm not purely skeptical by any means. I'm just hard to convince, but I can be convinced with the right evidence, and even like sometimes instinct I think is enough. And in this case, if I were them, I would be team Justin. I would be like, maybe 6 audio files is enough. I don't need to go any further. This is too real for me. Even though that goes against like the logic part that I like to live my life by, sometimes a feeling is enough to make a educated decision.
I kind of think if we were doing this, like, because this was never happened, but like in an alternate universe where we were both okay recording not fucking late, and we were doing that kind of show, and we were sent something like that to listen to, would I want to listen to all 10 of those? And I'm completely immersing myself in it. It's like I'm in my dark room, nobody's home. It's 3:30 in the morning for me, like not for you. Like, would I want to sit there and listen to something like that? And I honestly, like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I would.
I'm not afraid to admit, as a grown man, I would probably be too scared to do that.
I mean, I think so too. I mean, I think even if I thought like, oh, people just sent us bullshit to put on our show, like, just because of the atmosphere you're setting up for yourself while you're doing it, it would be hard not to think that it's like, okay, this has to be like a little real. And I think I don't think I would want to finish it either. We would like have to scrap that particular episode. I think.
The ambiguity.
Which is something they talk about doing. They talk about scrapping it. Like, we'll just scrap it. Let's scrap this episode. They're like, no, we're gonna do it. But yeah, there is something very the ambiguity about it is something I think that is what makes movies like this work. Though it's like a kind of like could be fake, but there is like a chance that something like that could be real. And and then just knowing like the personal connection that their writer director had to it, I mean, that makes it even more unsettling, I think. And I kind of wonder if he kind of felt the religious part of it too. Like, did he not pray for his family enough? Like, was that something that he just made up for the movie? Like, her kind of guilt of like not doing that. So it adds another layer to it that makes the movie even more effective, I think. Like,
definitely.
add some realism to it. So I don't know. I loved it. I really liked it a lot. It's been a good year for horror movies, and it's gonna get even better.
Strong
in May.
start this year. Yeah, May we got Obsession
and
we've got-
Hokum.
Oh yes, that's the one I'm most looking forward to next. I think, and there's another horror movie in May. I think there's three.
Yeah, I gotta look at the thing again, but it's a big time. And Obsession is getting like so much. I mean, it's like it's all these like unique horror movies with like these kind of clever angles and plots that kind of take these like mundane, like like something as simple as like I wish the most popular girl in school would like fall in love with me, and then taking that and then like being like the whole angle, like be careful what you wish for, and then like pounding you over the head with it, like she loves you so much that she wants to rip your face off now. Like these are the consequences. These are now the consequences. Like, but I know taking these
modern day fairy tale.
But I'm glad that we have filmmakers that are like doing different things in the genre and not just repeating what we've had before, like because like I don't mind having like a Scream 7, but I love having like original stuff like this that is unique and different. So I enjoyed it.
Well, on the note of that, how would you rate it? Would you say? I think I got my number locked.
I'm pretty high on it. Like just as experience in itself, I would 4.5 it, but it could change. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I'd say like as my enjoyment was probably like a 5, but like I'm gonna rate it like a 4, also on the high end. Just it does a lot with very little. It was engaging for not having a lot going on, and it just really accentuated one of the technical aspects of movie making and made it the star of the show, which I thought was really impressive and really well handled. I guess the only reason I would dock it a point is that it's like because it's so small scale and such like a micro budgeted movie, it's like doesn't have the potential to be this big, bold, bombastic,
right.
You know what I mean? But like nothing bad to say about it. I thought it was a fantastic movie. So sitting at a pretty 4. But I bet that rewatch will add a lot of value to it as well.
Yeah, man. I think this is kind of movie like sitting alone in the dark room will like really make it highly effective. Like I remember seeing the first Paranormal Activity in theater and not thinking much. I liked it, but like it was a bunch of like young kids there, and like I think it's a opening night showing. It took out of like the experience of them like fucking hollering and laughing at the stuff they should be laughing at. When I watched
that would be annoying.
When it came out like on like I guess Blu-ray and stuff, when I watched it at home alone in a dark room, I thought it was like so much scarier than when I saw it in theaters. So like I think this is like the kind of movie that benefits from like being by yourself and like setting the mood kind of thing. I think that it really will benefit from that kind of experience. And I think I don't know. I think we have a little like modern day horror classic. So good for him.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm excited to see what he does next with that Paranormal Activity movie. I would love to see it just be the visual version of what we hear from Mike and Jessa. I think that would be a great context.
No, that could be its own movie. Yeah,
like, I'd love to see what they were dealing with.
I'll take a spinoff and see what they were going through. I like when I told you like he's going to be doing the next one, and you're like yeah, like number 8. like you said it with such like a tone number in your voice, 8. Like, oh, why are there so many of them? It's true though,
but they're making money clearly.
Yeah, that's true. All right, I guess we're wrapping up. So this is episode 282. I want to say the Undertone podcast, but I won't do that. Back to the blockbuster. Back to the blockbuster. Thank you guys for listening to us talk about Undertone, the movie that we both enjoyed. It's still in theaters right now, so you can check it out. A24 tends to like keep their movies, even if they don't keep them in theaters long. It's a little bit before they come to digital. So like try to catch it in theaters if you can. But maybe if you do wait till digital, you can actually experience it in the dark room by yourself, and it might actually benefit you more. I do think the immersive experience of hearing it in a movie theater, though, with like that proper sound, is like the best way to watch it the first time. But for me and like Jackson, the second time we watch it at home alone will probably make it a little even more scary than it was in theater.
Excited to see what subtitles will catch it for dialogue.
Yeah. Oh, you watch movies with subtitles, huh?
Always.
So man, it's hard for me to do that. All my friends do it. Like they're like, oh, you'll never know you're gonna miss. I was like, I don't know, pay attention. Like it can be distracting, but I guess
that's a whole other conversation.
We should
have someday, because I pick up so many details, even if it's like a character will use some dialogue and they'll say something. It's like, I didn't know I never heard that name, and then because you're reading it on subtitles and it's like, say it's like in italics, you realize, oh, it's the name of something like a ship. And oh, like I didn't pick up on that detail if I hadn't been reading the subtitles. A lot of great value to subtitles, but I'm going to stick a pin in that.
I
You can continue with our outro.
I trust you. I trust you. Thank you guys for listening as always. You can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts. But also check us out on the Playlist Studio app. They are a podcast network and they treat us very, very well. As we said when we were watching this movie, there's a lot of stop and go that we would not be able to edit ourselves. The episode cycle would be very, very not as frequent as it is now. You probably hear from us every like 2 months if it was up to us editing it.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. You can get that in the iOS store, the Google Play Store. We have anniversary episodes coming your way, more news, more stuff, an update on the Cinema Vault very soon. They're working hard on that and getting all that ready for our spinoff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. As always, thank you, Jackson, for sharing a new movie with me. And yeah. Until next time. And I'm glad we don't do a scary show. I'm very happy that we do a happy one about movies.
Yeah.
At a reasonable time, like
at a
during the day.
time. Yes.
for both of us.
And thank you guys for tuning in to these episodes week after week. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. Peace out. That's it for this episode of Back to the Blockbuster. Thanks for tuning in and geeking out with us over all things movies. Make sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts and stay connected on our socials for more film talk. We'll be back soon with another episode. Until then, happy watching.